So hello and welcome. My name's Steve Nobel, and today I'm speaking with Moriah on the Soul Seed Crystal. Now, Moriah is a highly experienced light body specialist. I've known her for many years, facilitator and coach. She's trained in many vibrational modalities, and she now offers her own divine human series of programs. She helps clients unplug from the 3D matrix and programming and plug into 5D through vowel breaks, activations, and activations of soul blueprint and contracts for their lifetime. Helping to awaken their divine purpose and soul seed crystals and more. She's the author of Labyrinth, and I have a copy here. I'll wave it about. My Journey to Belonging. She has three. You've got two grown up. I don't know where I've invented another grown up son. You've got two grown up sons and lives by the beach in Sussex, England. Hi, Moriah.
Hi, Steve. Hi.
You're looking very good in pink today.
Thank you. Yeah, it felt like a pink day.
Yeah, outside's a bit rainy, so we need a bit of colour.
It's very stormy outside, so yeah, it needed a bit of colour.
I've known you for many years, and I know a bit about your journey. But can you say, how did you get into this line of healing and coaching work? Because you're a bit like me. You're a bit out there, aren't you? Like me.
I'm a bit out there, yeah. How did I get into it? Gosh, it was all intuitive, really. So I, like you, I had a corporate background. So I worked in the service industry and retail specifically. So when I graduated, I started working for CNA and got a really good grounding in the management training and development, as well as retail operations. And then I went and worked for a major international company and had a huge input into how directors were trained and a great insight into human behavior and a frustration around the fact that, you could train them and then they'd go back out into business and all of the training would just fall away. So I was really aware that the ecology people are living in is super important. And that is something that's coming forward in this work now. But I left just after the total eclipse in August 99.
Oh, yeah.
So I resigned the day after my Reiki attunement. I set up my own coaching business, and essentially within 3 months, I brought the whole family down to Sussex, away from the suburbs in London.
All right.
And it blossomed from there, really. As my children grew, the business grew, and I just went and trained in whichever modality was calling me. So I trained in color therapy, color acupuncture, earth astrology, numerology, soul contract work, which I still do. I love that work. I trained in magnified healing, all sorts of things. And then I started channeling my own courses. And it got to, I think, 2010, where the modalities just weren't working anymore. So I'd been using resonance repatterning and all sorts of things to clear patterns, because I had this thing that I just had this drive to clear patterns and programs. But at one point they just stopped working. The modalities stopped working. And meditation wasn't working for me because it was taking me out of body, and I was already ungrounded. I knew I needed to be more grounded, and I wanted to be more present for me and for my kids and for my clients and my work. And I was intuitively guided to be more still and just sit in silence and be completely still, which was totally unlike me at the time. But after a few days, I started hearing a voice that was guiding me through pathways within my body, within my energy field. And those pathways took me into a place of pure presence, to the point where at one point I actually couldn't feel my body anymore. I was just experiencing myself as consciousness, as energy, which kind of freaked me out a bit, to be honest, because I had to get up, get out and do a school run. So first time it happened, it was a bit freaky. But I got used to it. And then what started to happen was I started to see crystals appearing. And I'd already trained as a light body surgeon in the same way that you did. So we're both lotus sword light body surgeons. So I had a grounding in it, but it wasn't how I wanted to work anymore. I wanted to work in a less linear way. So I'd started to develop my own light body work. And this is when the soul seed crystal started appearing. So I kept tuning into it and asking it questions, because for most of my life, I'd been trying to consciously or otherwise figure out, who am I, what am I here to do, and where do I belong, without even knowing that's what I was looking for. I was looking for somewhere to belong, and I never did. I never belonged in the corporate world. And even when I got into the spiritual world, in inverted commas, it still didn't quite belong, because I had this corporate background. And so there was never this sense of really belonging anywhere, which I think a lot of star seeds have, because we're not here to belong. We're here to change the system. But I never identified myself as a star seed at that point. But when I started tuning into the soul seed crystal, it started spinning. And so the more attention I put on it, the more it started to change. And what started to happen is it started to expand, and the light started to expand. And then at one point it just exploded. It was like this nuclear explosion inside of me, which I'd never really felt. Well, I hadn't felt that before. And then other things started to happen, actually. So my life began to fall apart a little, or break open, whichever way you want to look at it. And I separated from my husband, and then life took over. So I stopped that practice. But what did start to happen, I realized a couple of months ago, I started to see the patterns coming through, that new things were downloading. So actually, me tuning into that soul seed crystal had triggered something in me that had started, I think, my own soul's evolutionary path around this next evolution of business. And I downloaded in one session the Game Master vowel breaks and activations, which are vowel breaks and activations around us committing to forget that we're in this illusion, and activations to help us to remember that we are creative beings, and that we are powerful, and that we can step out of the 3D matrix and into the 5D. And then after they came through, the Divine Human Blueprint started to download spontaneously when I was with some clients. So I started to get more curious about what that was, and how to work with it. And then more vowel breaks and more activations around that started to come through. And then other new systems, healing systems, started to come about. So I started to channel a new system whereby you're setting intentions into the quantum field and supporting them through vibrational modality. That started to come through. So through all of this time, I was barely processing. I noticed there was a real drop off in my drivers. I no longer had try harder, be perfect, please me, which were my three strongest drivers all through life. They just dropped out. I realized that actually I didn't need to process anymore. I wasn't processing like I used to. It was saving me time and energy on that. And I was actually in a real state of peace and contentment, which I'd never experienced before.
Wow.
And the point to which this all started, where I was being led through these inner pathways, it was a process I taught for a while called the stillness method, which brings you into a center point and helps you stay really centered. And unless something really drastic blows up in my reality, I can manage to stay in that centeredness. So it completely changed how I live my life and how I relate with myself and life. And I think the thing that really sealed it was when I wrote my book last year, because writing my stories and weaving in messages from the Labyrinth and the soul somehow integrated all of those things. So it integrated the corporate with the spiritual, the material with the spiritual, and helped me to see the patterns unfolding. So that's how I came to be doing what I'm doing now.
Well, let me ask you about the soul seed crystal. Can you say a little bit about it and where you sense it in your body, or in clients, in the body of clients, or the energy field of clients? And also, what's the impact of working on this with clients? So Yeah, a bit about it. Where is it, and what's the impact of working with it?
Yeah. So it's pretty consistent where it is. It sits within, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because we're describing it in a linear way when it's not linear, but essentially, as I see it in myself and as I see it working with clients, it sits within the heart space around the heart chakra. So if you open up the space around the heart chakra and drop into that space, drop into love, it sits behind the heart chakra. And the divine purpose crystal sits in front of the heart chakra. So the divine purpose crystal has the information for this incarnation. The soul seed crystal has the information of our soul across eons, all of our soul's information. It's like having your own personal Akashic record within you, as opposed to looking outside of you, which is another of the benefits of this work. Is, you know, we're often told that the answers lie within us, the power is within us. But it's like, well, where do I look and how do I find it? But this actually is partly where it is. It's one of the solutions to those dilemmas. The soul seed crystal to me looks a little bit like, it's kind of, if you imagine, I don't know whether this podcast is visual as well as audio.
Yeah.
It is. So it's about that long. It always shows up in an oblong vertically. And I see it as a clear quartz crystal, but I guess it might be a Herkimer crystal. Who knows for sure, but it is clear quartz. For some people, it has a kind of a colored hue to it. So I have seen a soul seed crystal. It's got an emerald type of hue to it, or a deep pink, this color pink that I'm wearing.
Right.
But they are consistently behind the heart. They are consistently the same size, same shape, slight variations in color. My understanding is that those crystals are there. They're latent within us until they get activated.
Yeah.
I also understand from working with them that the soul is in charge really of the timing of its activation and the timing of when this information gets released. So the information that's stored there, all the Akashic information, gets released over a period of time through light frequencies that start emitting from the soul seed crystal. And the light codes start translating into, for example, some people will experience in heightened intuition. Some people will have a more embodied knowing. They will just know what their next step is. They'll know when they recognize someone who they need to be in touch with. Some people start to receive what I would call more downloads or channeling. So instant downloads, complete in and of themselves. Some people have reported that some of their senses have started to change. So, for example, some people have suddenly had clairvoyance switch on, or clairaudience, where you hear information. For some people, their work has switched around, which is what's happened with me. So they've started a whole new business or gone off on a different trajectory. And I think for almost everyone I've worked with, and including myself, there's this sense of peace. It's like activating the soul within. So you've got, if you've started working with your heart chakra and you started to drop more into love and out of the head into the heart, you've also got the soul's energy that is there. So the value of that really is untapped. It's unknown, because I suspect we're moving much more into an era now where our frequency is our greatest asset. And if we've dropped into the heart space and into love, and we're also embodying love and our soul through that soul seed crystal, then that energy is going to be emitting through us, our body, our cells, through our energy lines, the meridian chakras, out into the axial and atonal lines that are in the light body and beyond. And our energy field starts to get revitalized and holds the flavor and the essence of our soul and our purpose, So I imagine what that does is it starts bringing people to us, starts bringing opportunities to us so that we can actually express more of what we're here to do. I think there's a deepening into belonging and a deepening and expansion into our soul's purpose, our soul's story. But this time it's from within us, not from connecting above or connecting below or asking channels or gurus, or, it's not looking outside of ourselves as much. It's actually really working from our own sovereignty inside of ourselves. Still cooperating, because we're working to cooperate. And this is part of the work that I do, that the blueprints, I see them as, we're born with corrupted discs. So we're born with a corrupted disc that has our spiritual karma, personal karma, the ancestral stuff that comes down. It then has the conditioning and the social programming that we grow up with. And so when we're doing all of our inner work and we're doing everything we possibly can to grow our consciousness and become more heart and soul led, if we're still operating from a corrupted disc, it makes it harder to process, but it makes it harder for everything to stick and integrate. Which brings me back to what I was talking about with the directors, that they used to go off and they'd forget everything that they'd learned because their environment wasn't conducive to supporting their changes. So it's a bit like, you can keep putting new fish into a goldfish bowl, but unless you change the water and create the right conditions, it's really difficult to keep them alive and keep them healthy. So the divine human blueprint it has love and unity and connection and creativity and ease and flow built in standard. So when that gets downloaded, the 3D stuff kind of falls away. So you're creating the ecology for the light body and everything else to be stable.
I'll ask you, if anybody wants to open and work on these crystals, is it one-to-one sessions or a series, or how can they work with you?
Yeah, it's a good question, because at the moment it's been one-to-one sessions, but I'm also looking this year to extend it into groups. So I really do want to bring this to more people in a more accessible way. So I'm looking into whether I can do it through audio, whether I can definitely do it through group sessions. And up until now, it's been part of a program of things. And what I might do is I might be able to bring it as an individual group session or bigger group session, or as part of a training. It's something I'm definitely looking into at the moment. Up until now, it's what's been needed is the blueprint as well to be in place for people to really make the most of it. But of course, what I don't know is what happens if you don't have the blueprint. It might be that you could activate the soul seed crystal and it changes the whole of the energy field anyway. So that's more than possible.
I know you're going to...
I was going to say, the other thing is, once people know that it's there and where to look for it, I wouldn't want anyone to think that they need someone else like me as a facilitator to get them there. I can do it, and I really enjoy doing it. But if you want to look for it, it's dropping into the heart center and just asking to be shown it or asking to feel it, because just the intent to activate it and awaken it will start to have an impact.
Beautiful. Now, I know you're going to lead a visualization for people to get an experience of some kind with this work. So I'll pass it over to you. All right.
Okay. All right, so just for a few minutes, what I'd like you to do, or invite you to do, is, if you can, sit upright with your feet on the floor and your eyes closed. And just have the intention to drop into your heart space. So bring your attention inwards. So if it's easy, you might be able to imagine a line that starts at the top of your head, your crown, and works all the way down to your base chakra, and bringing your focus inwards into that line. so that you become really centered, and then dropping down into your heart space if you find it difficult to go straight down. And bring some deep breaths in, breathing in and breathing down into the space all around your heart chakra. Don't even need to expand the heart chakra, just with the intention to expand the space around the heart chakra. Breathing down and breathing into that space and opening. And you might start to see that space as a colour. You might just feel it. Imagine or see where your heart chakra is, and then just behind that, invite your own soul seed crystal to make itself known. Ask it to spin a little faster, awaken a little bit more, activate. Inviting your soul seed crystal to come online now. And you can use that language when you work with it. You can even use the command soul seed crystal online, and it will start to activate. For some people, they start to see light spinning, a bit like you can imagine a lighthouse, a beacon of light, or for some, they feel a spinning or a rotation going on within their upper body. And these are the light codes that start to get activated. And these light codes start to manifest as soul memory. They start to open up pockets and portals of power and potential within you. Soul talents that have been lying dormant, possibly for a lifetime. Gifts that you have that are ready to be brought forwards now. Potential that's ready to come online. Your own unique soul expression. And all of this so that you can be the mosaic piece that is needed in this world, that will join with all the other mosaic pieces to create the new earth. Your unique contribution. If you want to, you can invite the soul seed crystal to go offline just by saying soul seed crystal offline. Or you can reduce the spin speed if it's not comfortable for you. And know that you can come back to it at any time you want to. And then just letting that image of the soul seed crystal fade. And then coming back to everyday awareness. When you're ready, begin to maybe have a little stretch and open your eyes.